Going back to Saturday's loss, again, frustrating. It's a tough loss. It's a frustrating loss, and kind of going off of what like Brant was saying. Like what comes down to is the yards per play. That like you look at the score and you saw it was 28-16, but like when after the game, you just feel so defeated at times from like actually from an offensive play caller of just the inconsistency of our yards per play. Like we didn't score red zone touchdowns, which you got to do that, especially in conference play. You talk about the two things that you get out of this game that I thought were pretty glaring were physicality and execution. All right, those were the two things where I thought they dominated the line of scrimmage, and that's why our yards per play weren't very good. And I thought that's why Georgia State was moving the ball pretty effectively at times because they just had their way with us up front, and we had 15 negative plays and they had one. That kind of just shows you how the game was pretty much won and lost from a physical standpoint up front. Like I've always talked about our effort. We get complimented on our effort all the time, and our kids fight. Like it was 28-16, and after the game, looking at it, it could have been a lot worse than what it was because I thought they physically dominated us up front and on both sides of the ball. But the thing that is glaring to me is that our room for error is so minimal at times, and you look at the execution side of it. Like you listen to Brant right there, and he talks about like Ashton Hawkins having 100 yards, and like there's people making plays, and everybody had their moments, and but like the consistency of it throughout the course of the game is not there right now, and we had a lot of missed tackles, a lot of dropped balls, a lot of just kind of non-executed plays to a certain extent, and we've got to be more consistent with that, and I feel like half the game we're doing good stuff, and half the game we're not doing what we should be doing, and that's kind of where we're at right now as a program, and we're in this room. I think we prepare the right way. I think we play the game the right way. We need to be more physical, but we are playing hard and we are fighting. But in order for us to take this next step as a program, we have to be cleaner in our execution, and that's really like our Achilles heel. Like our kids are always in the game, but like in critical moments, we are not making those plays. Like there was a 4th and 1 where we had him hit for a 4-yard loss, and he breaks like 3 tackles and gets the first down. It was actually probably like a 20-yard run. Like if there was 3rd and 1s where we could have got off the field, we had 3rd and 3s where we had a false start and got back to 3rd and 8. There was a lot of things that are just self-imposed that we've got to clean up, and in order for us to win these games, we've got to play cleaner football in critical moments, and that's kind of where what's showing up the most right now. Like I've always been in here and I talk about how hard we play, and like we get complimented all the time by that, but like that's not enough right now. We've got to be able to make these plays. We're in position, and we got to just execute it. And I think once we start getting more of the execution and more of the consistency right, like that's when you close these games out, because like you look at the past 2 games, the past 2 losses. Like versus Troy, you have 4 turnovers and you lose by 3. Like you should win that game if you just take care of the ball in critical moments. If you look at last week's game, we had so many missed tackles and drop balls and kind of mis-executed things, and we lose by 12, and there was a ton of opportunity for us because we're in the red zone 3 times and we come out with field goals. You got to score points in those moments, and we understand where we're at. And like we're going to keep showing up. Like there's one thing is we're going to fight, and we're going to be back up. We got a quality opponent on Saturday, a national TV game, a noon 11 o'clock kickoff versus really a top 25 opponent in our minds. I think they're 27th by rankings right now. But what they do is they win, in those critical moments. Like if you look at 4 of the games this year, 4 of their wins have been down to 1 possession, really an 8-point, and a lot of them have been really field goal driven. And that comes down to 1 possession, but they are doing the right plays and they're finding ways to win and they're executing at the right moments. And that's why they're winning, because, like you see how this league is. It's so up and down. Anybody can win any Saturday, and it really comes down to the team that is going to play well in the critical moments and close the game out and not beat themselves. And Louisiana has done a tremendous job at that. They've got a great defense. The thing that I've noticed a lot about this conference right now, we've flipped our roster really well. Over the past couple of years, but with this super senior class, it's pretty real with some of these good teams, and like you look at like Georgia State last year, 9 of their 11 returned for their their senior year last year, and that's why they're really good up front. And that was why they dominated the trenches. You look at this Louisiana team right now; they've got super seniors across the board, and they're a talented team. That's why they've got had a lot of preseason hype, and rightfully so. They're really talented. I think it's amazing that their quarterback, Levi, he's started like at times for 5 years now. It's kind of like that Case Keenum effect when we were at Houston, where this is his 5th year of starting games, and that's where this COVID year and eligibility thing's gone to. And like they've had a lot of guys play ball together for a long time. They're a mature team, they're a veteran team. The way I talk to our team about them, they're long, they're physical, and they're fast. Like it's pretty much that it checks every single box. So we've got to play clean football. We got to play with our fight, and we've got to execute in those moments. But it's going to be an exciting game for us. It's a great opportunity for us, and we're looking forward to getting to Lafayette and having it's supposed to be another beautiful Saturday like it's been the past 2 weekends for us. So another 75 and sunny game on national TV. So we'll be excited to play. I'm ready to go fight. Some questions?
Well, Coach, you mentioned the execution issues. Why do you feel like those are still popping up at this point of the season, halfway through the year?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think too, when you get to this time of the season, like defensively speaking, with like missed tackles, a lot has to do with fatigue and where they're currently at that moment. Like you sit there and like you watch the cut ups with the kids, and they're in the right position. We got to make those plays, of course there's going to be some tough play calls at times. They're never going to be right play calls, and we got to do a better job at times putting them in those situations. But for the most part, they're there, and we feel confident of it. And there's not you never really see any busted plays with us this year. You just see kind of the missed execution, on terms of missed tackles. You look at where we're at on offense, we throw a glance post and JB catches it early, and then he drops one the next time, and then TJ drops one on that, on a glance post, or on the freeze call into the end zone, he has a touchdown in his hands and ends up bobbling it and missing it. We've got to be able to make those plays, and I thought protection wise we were struggling at times. We had Liam Dobson went down, and we had to move him around, and had Alex Castilla out in the game for his first snaps of the year. And then he ended up re-breaking his hand and leaving the game, and then he'll be back and fine. But we were kind of doing the musical chairs up front again, and they kind of sensed that, and they kind of got after us a little bit up front, and you saw just by how Brady was scrambling a lot, and it was tough to get to those second reads. We ended up finding kind of a niche of hitting the back shoulders, but when you're just kind of getting to one read type deals, we got to execute those, and you're halfway through the season, and I've seen these kids make those plays, and I'm expecting them to go and make it this Saturday. So.
You mentioned Brady, Coach, and in the fourth quarter you had a chance to make it a one-possession game. You got it down to around the red zone. It was a 3rd and 15, I think, and Brady ends up throwing an interception. What looks to be a miscommunication between he and Marcel. Can you take us back to that play and what led to the turnover?
Yeah, it was miscommunication. We had a double move on. It was an opportunity because they were playing the chains, so we were going to get him to jump a little bit, and Barbie misread it. He needs to be a must outside release on that double move, and he ended up posting it. Brady was throwing it to the spot where we thought Marcel would be, and it ended up being a pick. We can't have those. That's miscommunication. That's on us. That's beating yourself in those moments. It's even with the fumble at the end of the game too. They zero pressured you, and Brady's got to get the ball out of his hand. And they at that moment they knew that they could get to the QB pretty well. So they're taking away your first read, and they're just internally pressuring everybody on that. And Brady's got to throw hot and throw it up for a one-on-one, because you don't have enough blockers at that point. And the free hitter ended up knocking the ball out. He almost got it out. He made the free hitter miss, but the defensive end came back on him and made him fumble. So, those are the 2 turnovers that were costly in the fourth quarter again.
Last year, Brady was your starter for most of the season, with the exception of a few games for Tyler Vitt. So Brady's been your starter all year long. This year, have you seen progression from him since a year ago?
Yeah, he's way better than what he was a year ago. And I think that's just reps and just playing the game. The thing about Brady that I've said a ton of times, his DNA is to make plays, and he's made a lot of plays for us. But it's also in his DNA that he'll make a kind of a crucial mistake, of throwing interceptions or throwing it to the other team, And he has his games where he makes those plays and he doesn't throw them, and he has those games where he doesn't both, and he has those games where he doesn't make as many plays and he throws those interceptions. Like it's just the inconsistency across the board. And we're still searching to find that continuity with everybody right now, where you just worry about doing your job. And like interceptions are always going to be on the quarterback, but like as a play caller and just doing it for so long, I put it on a lot of different people. It's a game of inches, a game of timing, a game of protection, a game like of everything. But at the end of the day, Brady's got to be smarter with the ball, as we all know.
Coach, you mentioned the trips to the red zone this week and how they kind of held you to field goals rather than touchdowns. That's not normal for y'all. Was it something specific that Georgia State did that made it more challenging this week?
Yeah, I just thought up front they got after us. Like we weren't typically when we get in the red zone, we run the ball, and we couldn't do it. We were in, like I'm telling you, it was one of those games where we were in third and long the entire time. So some of the hardest play calls that coordinators will experience is a third and long inside like the score zone area. Because you got to get to the goal line at certain times, and like they can play coverage and they'll keep everything in front, and it's difficult to do. But that was really the one glaring issue with us was the offense. We got down there, but we just would never score, and that ultimately if we would have scored those touchdowns, you'd probably feel a lot better sitting in here today, coming out with a win. So to really summarize it all up, I thought they just dominated us up front and just across the board from a physical standpoint.
Ashton Hawkins, it seemed like he had a pretty big game for y'all, especially on that last drive. What was he doing well?
He was making the plays, is the execution that we talk about. Like we were throwing back shoulders to him on those third downs were great plays. When we would throw just like a fast screen or just like kind of a hitch out into the field, he'd make a guy miss. He was making people miss. He was playing at a high level. And that's the thing about they were dominating us up front so well that when we tried to get on the perimeter, he was the only one that was actually getting the yards that you should get on that. And that was kind of like really the talk with the entire team all Sunday was, like a play that you should get about 10 yards on, we were getting about 2 yards on. And that shows that they were playing with more of a physical edge at times. But Ashton, on the other hand, was making those plays. And when we got into that last drive, if you're a hot hand, we're just going to keep dealing you the ball. And he ended up hitting a couple hole shots and some slant routes as well. So, he was the one that was making those plays for us. So I was really proud of the kid. That's his first kind of breakout game that he's had. So it was good to see.
And then, going up against Louisiana this week, it's the reigning co-champion. Is there, a higher expectation from the players this week, knowing that, you have to play your best game to compete with this team?
Yeah, we've got to play clean football. We cannot play like what we've been playing with all the mistakes that we do and the kind of the missed execution of side of things. But we know that if we do our job and we consistently do it, now this is a tough team. Now they're gonna run the ball, and they're gonna try to maul you, and we're gonna have to consistently show up with a physical presence and do it consistently over the course of the game. You were watching the Arkansas State game and they closed it out with a 10.5-minute drive, to just shut the game off. Which they consistently and methodically work their way down the field, and the issue and what they do is they're efficient in their run game. They're getting, I think it's 6-7 yards a carry right now. I feel like, yeah. So we've got to stop that right now. So it's not much about we've got to play with our fight and play with our how hard we play. That has to be a given in this game. But we got to match the physicality, and we've got to execute at a pretty high level because this team doesn't make mistakes. And like I've said just a second ago, when it gets to critical moments, they always close their games out. Louisiana does. And I was reading the stat over there, some crazy stat about how when it comes to one possession, they're it's 27-3 or something like that. It's a pretty crazy stat.
A few times today, Coach, you mentioned how much fight your team has been showing. And I'm sure it has to be frustrating for them to put in all the effort, the preparation, the fight in games, not getting results. And the expectation after 7 games probably wasn't 2-5. How's morale right now, given everything that's happened?
They're good. You sit there and you talk to them. They know where we stand. It's a tough game. And especially when the ball's not bouncing your way and you're losing. And to play really sacrifice your body and give everything that you got, that takes a lot of courage to line it back up and do it again, and especially versus a Louisiana team. But my whole message to them is that you've got to keep showing up, and eventually if you keep playing with the passion and the energy and the effort that you're playing with, you're going like the ball will bounce your way if we just clean up ourselves and not beat ourselves. Like at the end of the day, like we beat ourselves more than anybody right now, and because we're always in these games, and like this is a quality opponent, we're gonna have to play clean, like Drew's saying right there, like and play with that edge. But our morale is good right now. Like they understand it. It's about, hey man, we got to strap it back up. We got to bring everybody along. I know everybody's not feeling 100% right now, but I need your 100% today. Whatever you got to bring it. And our coaching staff does a good job at motivating and getting them going again. We show back up. We had another good practice. It's not like we're addressing very many issues of concern right now, because like I know they're going to show back up and fight again on Saturday, and that's just kind of how this team is. They're a pretty resilient team when it comes to how we play. But we got to clean up the execution side of it for us to start winning these games.
And again, looking at Louisiana, kind of remarkable that since the Sun Belt split up into divisions, they've yet to lose to a West opponent. But a couple of games this year were decided by less than 3 points. They won by 2 against South Alabama because of a missed kick. Arkansas State was a 1-point game last week. So they look, for lack of a better term, vulnerable. What have you noticed in those tight games that maybe could apply to how you approach it?
Yeah, like I don't think they're vulnerable. I just think everybody throws their best game at them, and I think they just consistently do what they do, and they work it out at the end. And at the end of the game, they don't blink, they don't hesitate, they just find a way to win. Like we're gonna have to throw our best shot at these guys, and we all know that. And when you play teams like this, you have an opportunity to play against a team that has been winning at a high level and that's got a lot of national eyes on them right now, and it's a great opportunity for us to try to put together a complete game and play together and see what we're capable of doing. That's what it comes down to, and I think it's a great opportunity, in the ESPNU kickoff, and I think our kids are going to be excited. There's some logistics that we got to work through because it's an early kick, but you should be fired up to go and play this game.
Coach, any new injuries we should know about?
Donovan Moore he'll be out for the season as well. So that was a tough one. He was making so many great strides, a great kid, like on and off the field. Just unfortunate for him right now. I don't know the details of the injury yet, but it looks like it's out for the season. So Donovan, really everybody else, you had Michael Levette was out in this past game, but he's working his way back in, and Nico was limited in this past game as well. Sammy's been out for the year, and Charles Fletcher's out for the year. So right now, I think that's it. Yeah, from the injury standpoint.
And then last question for me, Geno Smith has been filling in for the Seahawks. I didn't know if you had a chance to talk to him yet.
Yeah, I hadn't talked to him after last night. I talked to him the previous week, but Geno, man, I think what is this, year 10? It's pretty funny because last night I was watching the first quarter before I had to go into a meeting, and Geno threw that 84-yard touchdown to DK Metcalf, and we were all laughing because Peeler coached DK, I coached Geno, and then their best defensive player is Jordan Brooks, who's Zach coached at Texas Tech. So we're big Seahawks fans right now. So yeah, man, I'm just proud of Geno. It's amazing just how you can play that long still, and he still got it. It's kind of nostalgic in a way when you kind of watch him run out there on the field, because you remember all the times that we had together back in 2011 and 2012, and just to watch him grow into the man that he is right now. We always talk, in the off season, he's got his baby boy. He's gonna come and hang out with my kids, and it's just it's kind of a full circle deal, because we were just kind of, I was his coach, and we just had a really good bond, and now we've both kind of grown up and went different ways and got families and professions, and it's cool to just to understand that I'll always take care of his family in any capacity, and he'll do the same with me.